November 2024 was a bad month. I think for all of us, for everyone, but it was uniquely bad for me in a couple of ways. I had just gotten laid off. I was experiencing this whole like creative crisis while I was unemployed, and then like over the week of Thanksgiving, I got the sickest I had been in literal years. It was awful. Um, I was barely holding on. It was in this state, truly at my worst. Unemployed, fucking freaking jobless, ill, uh, feverish, that I came across this manga called Honeko Akabane's Bodyguards, and I read the whole thing in 2 days while in this feverish days, like curled up on a recliner. And I actually do think that that is the ideal state in which to read this manga. I think the plot operates on fever dream level. Once I had a friend over and we watched the Emoji Movie, and like halfway through he had to go home because he had suddenly come down with this awful fever and he was like shaking and he was not well for days afterwards. And I still to this day blame that on just like the sheer toll that the film the Emoji Movie takes on a person physiologically. I actually think this manga had an opposite effect on me. I think it healed me in a very tangible sense. I think it's the reason why I'm still here today. It's been about a year now, and I'm sick again, and so the series is it's on my mind. But I can't really seriously recommend it to anyone, even though I very much want to talk about it because it is simply it's too much.
I'm simply too much.
It's simply too much. Nevertheless, I need someone to know what's going on in Honeko Akabane's Bodyguards, so this is a plot summary video for what I think is probably the best action romance series on the market. If like complexity of plot and absurdity are the measures you're going by, this is it for sure. This is probably gonna be the first of 3 videos, maybe 4 if I talk about the movie. But I don't know if I have that in me. So this one I'm just talking about chapters 1 through 33 ish. Oh, and I want to say, like, if at any point or by the end of this video you're thinking like, "Wow, that was crazy," I would love to read something this insane, like blind. Please go ahead, like, click off, read the whole thing, because no matter what I say in this video or any like, it escalates like crazy. So the things I talk about in this video are really not that bonkers, but I just need to get to the crazy stuff, so we have to get through this. And I do think, oh, cat hair. I was up to the end, gooped and gagged. So let's just go. Okay, chapter 1. Chapter 1. Honeko Akabane, high school girl Honeko Akabane, is being stalked by an assassin. Do not worry, she's gonna be fine because who is there? Arakuni Ibiki. He beats up that assassin so bad that it looks like he's just beating up a random man, and Hanako is like, "What are you doing? What are you doing right now?" So this is our protagonist, Ibiki. He is, a high school boy who is childhood best friends with Hanako. Despite the fact that they're very different people, he at first blush appears like he's this very rough delinquent type. He's always getting into fights and stuff. And Honeko is this really well beloved class president. She's really sharp and really kind, and she's always bickering with him and being like, don't fight people. That's actually not good when you do that. So they're immediately established as childhood best friends who always bicker, and who are probably in love with each other. And you know this trope already. Like, you know where it's going. You know where we are. We get this amazing Ibiki moment like right at the beginning where he corners the guy who was trying to kill Kaneko and asks if he looked cool in front of her while he was apprehending him. And that's when I knew, like, that's when I knew I love this guy. I love this loser. Flashback to 1 week ago, the first day of spring break. Ibiki comes to his house and he finds that the entire house is surrounded by Yakuza members. And his dad comes, Ibiki's like, "Oh my god, is my dad like in debt to someone? Holy shit." And his dad comes out and is like, "Don't worry. These are my bros. I know these guys. I used to be in the Yakuza." And before he can even like process that information, out comes Masahito Jingu. Masahito Jingu is the head of the Jingu gang who all these guys are from, right? And this guy is like, "Hey, you know Honoko Akabane? She's my illegitimate daughter. And I put her in foster care when she was a baby. She was adopted very young, so she has no idea who I am or anything about the Yakuza. Like, she's nothing to do with all this. But someone has leaked her existence to the rest of my gang, and I'm getting close to, giving up this spot and having a successor. And they're trying to, people are starting to hire assassins to kill her because they think she might be up for succession. Masahito Jingu is here to hire Ibuki to protect Honeko up until graduation without ever discovering that she is in danger. He just wants her to have a normal life that is unaffected by the shit going on around her, okay? We get a flashback within a flashback to Ibuki and Honeko as children. And Honeko says she's going to be a lawyer, and Ibuki's like, "All right, I'm going to build your law office for you." It's really cute, whatever. The point is, he really cares about her, and he agrees to be her bodyguard for the next year. So, exit both flashbacks, okay? Back to the present. 1 week later, Ibuki is very on high alert for all these assassins who are trying to kill Hanako, and after school, he sees some guy on the lawn, and he follows him, and then immediately gets kidnapped and taken to a warehouse like by a wharf because it's one of those nondescript warehouses, and he's tied to a chair. And he gets out and he beats up like 30 of these gang members before one of them remembers he has a gun and could have shot him at any time. So he pulls out the gun, and he's pointing it at him, and Ibuki finally stops because gun is happening, and then this guy's like, "Who's gonna protect Honoko from the others while you're here with us?" Pause. The door to the warehouse opens behind Ibuki, and all 22 of his classmates are standing there in a line. Like they've been waiting for this. They lined up and they rehearsed this, and then someone had to trigger the door to open. Like it was a whole thing, right? So they're waiting there for this cinematic moment. All 22 of them are also her bodyguards. So the entirety of Class 3-4 has been trained since childhood to like surround Honoko and protect her just in case she's ever in danger. For an absent father, I think Masahito Jingu really is doing a lot for her, and I do, appreciate it in a way. These 22 high school students kick everyone's ass, and that's the end of chapter 1. That's it. Okay, so that's the premise we're going with. Okay, I have a lot I could say, but we just started, so I really gotta get this moving. Chapter 2, Class 3-4's doubt. Everyone in Class 3-4 hates Ibuki because he's really not very good as a bodyguard, and they don't know why he was hired. He's just like really obvious about what he's doing. He's the whole point of this is to conceal it from Honoko, and he's being really suspicious about everything. And he's very protective, so he's kind of overreacting to things that really aren't even threats. And meanwhile, all these kids, like, they've been trained by the Yakuza since they were children, for like over a decade for all of them. They're talking about like torturing techniques and like how to get blood out of clothes, and very casually, like this is their day-to-day life. So having this unprofessional loser just like join the class and mess with their whole vibe, they're not about that. In particular, the leader of the class, whose name is Sumihiko, just does not respect Ibuki as a human being. And like honestly, that's his right. Sumihiko is trying to demonstrate to Ibuki how they already all work together really well, so he kind of takes Ibuki to this surveillance room where he can watch video footage of the rest of the class just following his orders and doing their job as instructed. So then we get introduced to some of the classmates in this chapter as Sumihiko's kind of showing their abilities. And honestly, I'm not going to touch on many of the individual classmates until they become plot relevant because there are 22 of them, and like honestly, about half of them never matter. It's a lot like Assassination Classroom, where you have this ensemble cast and all of their unique strengths are really helpful for building like the atmosphere and the thematic elements and this feeling of like an actual classroom of camaraderie. But at the end of the day, you do not need to know every individual character to get the full story. Just know that when I bring up a character from the class for the plot, they've probably shown up in the background a few times and maybe had a few lines. I just haven't mentioned it. They aren't coming out of nowhere. That's just on me. That's on me. We do learn though that all of them have a very specific skill. So like there's a master of disguise, and there's a trap maker, and there's Karan the gambler, and the car driver guy, and the streamer. The streamer, I will get to the streamer. Not in this video, but we're going to get to the streamer. There's a streamer, and her whole job is that she streams. The only ensemble classmate member in this chapter who really matters right now is Nei Togea, who is the karate master and is also Honoko's like closest friend. I know Ibuki is supposed to be her best friend, but when we see someone like walking to and from school with Honoko or talking to her about her feelings, usually it's gonna be Nei. It's gonna be Nei. She also kicks ass. I really, really like her. The point is, Sumihiko shows just everyone working perfectly in tandem and just showing Ibuki like, hey, we really don't need you. But then there is this like blind spot in their plans, and Ibuki is the first one who notices, and he reacts way before anyone else, and he goes and protects Honoko. They kind of realize like, oh, the thing about Ibuki that we need is the fact that he is specifically obsessed with this woman. Like he's in love with her. Everyone else is doing this as a job. He is in love with her. And his personal feelings actually make him very useful because he's able to kind of like have a certain sense for what's going on that none of us do because we don't know her as well. So they kind of admit they underestimated him, and then the whole class goes to his house uninvited, and they're like celebrate over dinner with him. And then Ibuki gets up from the table, and he goes down the hall, and he calls Masahito Jingu on the phone. And Jingu asks how progress is going on Ibuki's real mission. His real mission is finding the traitor in Class 3-4 because someone leaked Honoko's existence to the rest of the world, and it had to be one of those 22 classmates. This is such a weird plot twist to include at the end of chapter 2. It wouldn't have fit into chapter 1 because there was too much going on, so I get why it isn't until now, but it's genuinely like off-putting to have a status quo change at the end of the second chapter, because usually in shonen manga, the first like 5 to 10 chapters are just like building on the initial premise from chapter one. You're not getting a lot of shakeups that early on, right? You're just getting kind of like into the groove of what's going on. And you feel like that with this chapter. And then, no, no, no. And this is our first clue that Honoko Akabane's Bodyguards is not like other stories. It does not need to be bound by the laws of nature. It does what it wants, you know? It goes where it is wont to go. It also is hard to get the stakes up for this at this point because like maybe if there were like 5 of them, it would be stressful because I could actually know who they all are. But at this point, we do not know the majority of the classmates. Anyone could be the traitor, and it would not have any kind of emotional payoff whatsoever, right? Because these are just people. Like, these are just names. Chapter 3, Honoko Akabane's Struggles. Pause. Who is this? This is Masachika Jingu. Masahito Jingu's heir. And is just coming home being like, hey, Dad, you hid a daughter from me? Didn't know about this. What's going on? So, just one moment, please. Okay, guys, this is Akabane Honoko's family tree. So as you can see, it includes Masahito, some mother, Masachika, and Honoko. This will not matter too much in this video, but in like 80 chapters, you're gonna be really, really glad that I have it. Anyway, it's the end of April. It's been like a month in universe since all of this bodyguard business began. Sumihiko kind of ordered Ibuki to ask Honoko on a date to the library because she was gonna go study by herself and she would have been unprotected. So he goes with her. There's a lot of flirting and like they're talking past each other and bantering. But like we can't talk about all that because assassins are trying to kill Hanako now, including Masachika Jingu. So the whole rest of class 3-4 has been in the background this whole time, like while they're flirting and having their little flirt on, they're killing, they're not killing. They're getting rid of people in non-lethal ways, but none of them respond when Masachika shows up. They can't. Class 3-4 are hired by the Jingu gang. They are the Jingu gang's property, so they can't fight members of it. They can't fight Masachika. So they tell Ibuki to back off. They're like, we actually can't do anything about this one. You just need to go. You just need to get Honoko and run out of here. But Masachika has set a bomb in the library and has the detonator. And then they put it in their mouth. Like, I got the detonator. What are you gonna do about it? You can't even hit me. And Ibuki's like, okay, if I have to be nonviolent. Ibuki kisses Masachika and guesses the detonator with his tongue. Masachika is so like shocked by this, just like shuts down, and Ibuki and Honoko escape. And Ibuki convinces Honoko that Masachika is just a stalker, which is an explanation that she accepts, and then like doesn't think any further about, like doesn't worry about her safety going forward. Like if this is gonna happen again, she's like, oh okay, a stalker, okay. A stalker with a bomb. Okay. I've been trying to kind of talk around Masachika's gender this whole time because at the end of this chapter, we get this plot twist where Masachika was actually a woman the whole time. So Ibuki didn't kiss a man. Ibuki kissed a woman. And like this has never once hit for me in any series where it's happened. Like are you ever surprised when this happens? Because I didn't even realize we were supposed to think that she was a man until it was treated like a plot twist. Like I thought she was a woman the whole time. So chapter 4, Masachika Jingu's frustration. Masachika is obsessed with Ibuki now. She first thinks that she wants to kill him, but then she's like, actually, no, I'm in love with him. And she infiltrates the school and is trying to get to him, and she's going crazy. And like, look, maybe she's not that much older than him. Like, maybe she's 18. I don't know. I do think this obsession makes sense from a certain character perspective for her. So, Masachika has been raised by this gang her whole life, and she's always had to earn the place she has in the world and has never gotten any kind of affection, like not from her father or anyone. Not everything is about what she can do, like pull off, right? And she has never been looked at as an individual. So it makes sense for her to project all of this fulfillment that she has never gotten onto the first person to kiss her and then talk to her frankly as a human. Like Ibuki becomes the sole object of affection that she can imagine because he's the first person to look at her. Something I do like really like about Honoko Akabane's Bodyguards is as stock as some of the characters feel and like as over the top as the situations they end up in are, they do come from places of genuine motivation and emotion. And maybe this is just like a really, really low bar for this thing to cover because I'm used to shonen series having girls have these crushes that are not justified even remotely on the worst men. And I'm talking about Sakura. She shouldn't have put herself through all that. She should have gotten over that so much faster. Oh my god. So with Masachika, you really worry this is just going to be like an equally underdeveloped iteration of a very misogynistic trope that just keeps coming up over and over and over again. And it looks like that at first, but the series doesn't stop totally at shallow. It really it does kind of question like of course a character who has been through this emotionally would get attached in this way, right? Don't get me wrong, there are so many things I do not like about this subplot, and we will get to there later, but I I give it the benefit of the doubt. Anyway, she breaks into school and she's cornering Ibuki. And while this is happening and other people are infiltrating, the rest of the class are in class actively. And they can't just get up and leave without alerting Honeko of what's going on. So Sumihiko goes over the little earpieces they have and is like, hey, Ibuki, you just have to deal with this for the next 50 minutes. Once we're out of class, we can come help you. But until then, you just have to hold them off yourself. Chapter 5, Arakuni Ibuki's 50 minutes. Sumihiko is feeding Ibuki information over the earpiece and like trying to guide him through the school, and he's the like logic planing guy, so he's helping Ibuki get through this pretty well. The entire class, while this is happening, are watching surveillance footage of Ibuki on their phones, and the professor is like, am I not a good teacher? Cause everyone is fucking playing Subway Surfers right now. He gets almost through the entire period, and then at the very end, Masachika corners him, and she asks him to marry her at gunpoint, and he says, "I refuse, bitch." Whoa. So she's like so shaken that she just turns around and walks away, and then tells all the rest of the guys who are there to just kill him. She's like, I never want to see him again. And at this point, the rest of the class are free. The bell is rung, and they all go and dispatch the situation very, very quickly in like less than a minute. Poor Ibuki. Chapter 6, Masachika Jingu's demise. Ibuki chases after Masachika after she leaves, manages to catch her and kind of guide her to her dad. Ibuki is talking to Masahito and he's like, hey, your daughter is trying to kill the other daughter that you hired me to protect. Maybe don't let that happen. Masahito's like, girl, I told you she's not going to be part of Succession. She's not part of this at all. So Ibuki is like, you need to exile her from your family because if she's kicked out of Succession, she has no reason to kill Hanako anymore. So Masahito takes out his gun and shoots Masachika in the shoulder, and Ibuki's like, hey, not what I said to do. But it turns out he was just shooting her coat of arms, and he says, don't ever show yourself before me again. I don't have daughters, not a single one. Whoa, man. So Masachika proceeds to have a complete mental breakdown because her dad just forsook her and she's like lost her whole reason for being. So Ibuki invites her to live with him because she has nowhere else to go. Obviously, she's like, oh, he's in love with me, so he's in love with me. So she moves in and she's very cute about it. She's like offering a gift to Ibuki's dad and is like wearing like a new outfit. I support her delusions a little bit because she just lost everything. I think she can have this for right now. She's allowed to have it. But then Ibuki, since they're together, he asked her, who is the traitor feeding you information? Chapter 7, the traitor in class 3-4. It's Sumihiko. She says it was Sumihiko who was texting her. So it's Sumihiko. And then Ibuki confronts him while they're on patrol the next day and asks if he betrayed 3-4. And Sumihiko's like, yeah, I did. He says, here's how I view Akabane Honeko. One day, somewhere, if someone tried to kill her, I really could not care less. And then he knocks Ibuki out. And Ibuki comes to, he's in this meeting that Sumihiko's having with a member of the Jingu clan's Ogami faction, which is one of the ones who are, rivaling for the name. So Sumihiko seems like he's an informant at first, and they're like, just talking to her like casually, but then they find out the actual informant they had got apprehended by Sumihiko. And while this is going on, Ibuki breaks out his restraints and just starts beating up everyone in the room, which is actually what Sumihiko brought him here for, because Sumihiko can't fight members of the Jingu clan, but Ibuki is just a civilian. He's an unrelated party. So Sumihiko brought him there so that he would fight the Ogami faction members that he can't fight himself. So Ibuki mid-fight is like, okay, did you or did you not sell information to outside parties? And Sumihiko's like, what? I didn't even know that was going on. I just meant that I didn't care about Akabane as a person, and that made me feel like a traitor. So Ibuki's like, okay, but Masachika was getting texts from you. And Sumihiko's like, well, yeah, anyone who's selling information in a traitorous fashion wouldn't use their real name, and I'm the leader, so it makes sense that they would pretend to be me. And he was like, okay, did not think about it for a second. So Sumihiko, not the traitor. I lied to you. I can do that at any time. Never forget that. Never forget that. Chapter 8, Sumihiko Somejika's recommendation. Do you like my reads? Okay, flashback to 2 years ago. They're just starting high school, right? and some of these delinquents are like trying to steal Sumihiko's lunch money, basically. And Sumihiko's really annoyed because he's like, I could fight these guys off in an instant. I could kill them, but I can't reveal myself to be as capable as I am. So he's trying to figure out what to do. While he's doing that, Ibiki shows up and fights them off for him. And then Ibiki gives this very inspirational speech because he thinks that Sumihiko is like a nerd who needs to learn to take care of himself. And he gives Sumihiko a pair of earrings, and he's like, "Hey, defend yourself in the future." And Sumihiko's like, "This weird loser." Flashback 2 years later, they're in the fight with the Ogami faction, and Sumihiko puts on those earrings and he protects Ibuki. Okay, so like remember what I said about the series not being as shallow as it could be, which doesn't mean much, but I just love this aspect of Sumihiko's character because he does not care about the job itself. You know, he doesn't care about Honoko's safety at all. It's actually tremendously unfair to him. He and these like 21 very close friends of his were made to give up on a normal life, a normal childhood, so that they could protect Honoko's childhood, so that they could make her have a good experience in the real world, right? So he doesn't like her. Like he has every reason not to like her. Everything he does to defend her is really to defend his family, which is class 3-4. He is not Akabane Honoko's bodyguard. He is the class's bodyguard. I just love this so much because, you know, like when I first started the series, I was like, oh, 22 high schoolers have been training since youth to kill. That's like that seems bad, right? And I was like, this they can't unpack this because it would ruin the vibe of the series. But they do. They bring it up in ways like this that where Sumihiko resents this position that he's been put in. Anyway, they end up fighting off the rest of the group, and Sumihiko agrees to help Ibuki find the real traitor. At the end of this chapter, we get another flashback, which reveals that Sumihiko was actually the one who approached Masahito and said, "Hey, there's this guy Ibuki, who I think we could add to our team." So he was the one who saw that he'd be useful, right? Because he's a civilian. He has a relationship that with Honoko that none of them have. He saw all these things about Ibuki and the ways that he could be a really useful asset for them to have. So back in chapter 2, when he was like nagging Ibuki, that was just to bully him. He didn't believe any of that. He thought he was capable. He knew he was capable the whole time. Chapter 9, Honoko Akabane's concern. It is time for sports day. Class 3-4 hates sports day because they all have like superhuman physical abilities and they can't use them. There's like this sprinter girl who accidentally gets put in the relay and she can't keep herself from breaking the world record. And they're all like, oh my god, now the track club wants you. Come on. Like they have to throw these matches and it's not fun for them. As this is going, we meet a friend of Honoko's who was very sick for the last 2 years, and this is her first sports day. And Honeko is like, I really wish that her team, the red team, could win because it's going to be her first and her last sports day, her last year of high school. And I just want her to have a good experience. And so Ibuki brings this information back to 3-4, and he's like, hey, we can't do this as ourselves, right? We can't win as ourselves because that would be revealing too much about our abilities to the world. But we can help this other person win, and then it's like we're really applying ourselves in a real way. So they actually do get to do sports day. It's very, very cute. Chapter 10, Orpheus in the Underworld. I don't know why it's called that. They're doing a really good job of fixing and throwing the matches so that Team Red is winning. So we get to see multiple members of the team do their team stuff to help someone else. And we also meet this guy named Omurai. First of all, Omurai, who is 28 years old and has a pregnant wife. So like I said before, you know, I was like, this series expands on so much of the stuff that you think it won't expand on. But we will never get a proper explanation for Omurai's presence. Why is an almost 30-year-old man hired for this? How long has he been working for them? Because the rest of them have been doing this for at least a decade, like since childhood. So was he like 18 while they were 8? Like, and they were just all still doing it together? And why is he necessary to have? Because I know he's like really good at judo, right? He's so fucking strong. But everyone else in this class has superhuman ability, like physical abilities, and they're 17 years old. So why did they need him to be part of the team? Does his pregnant wife know that he does this for a job? Does the government know that he has like is he have a double identity because he's a high school boy but also has a pregnant wife and also he's 20? Like I don't. We're never gonna know. No one can explain Omurai to me. No, why Omurai? Anyways, they're doing really good. They're throwing all the matches. Blah 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 blah. Nay, like I said, is the one who's Honoko's best friend, and she's been very standoffish through all of this. And Ibuki can't really get why, because he knows that Nay doesn't like him. Like she's been mean to him since the beginning, since chapter 2. So he corners her in the middle of this, and he's like, "Hey, I thought you'd be really into this plan because we're helping Honoko, and like you more than anyone in this class are friends with her." And she says, "No, we're not friends." Now, this is not like Sumihiko, who genuinely kind of has a sort of resentment for Honeko. Nae is in denial about something. She's really jealous of the relationship that Honeko has with Ibuki because inherently she and Honeko will never be equals, right? Their whole relationship is predicated on a lie. She can't tell Honeko why she's here or like who she is or what she can do. Um, so yeah, they aren't really friends. That's why she really has this hatred for Ibuki because he's the only one who has an honest relationship with her that comes before this big secret, this big lie. So Ibuki's like, oh, I see that, right? I see that you're having this emotional moment right now and you really need to go through it. And we have one more challenge to do. It's musical chairs, whatever. Um, and he says, okay, you and I are both in the musical chairs duel. If you win, I'll quit being a bodyguard. And then Nay's like, okay, and if you win, I'll quit being a bodyguard. Which is not something he even remotely wants, but he's like, sure, whatever. Chapter 11, Nay Toge's longtime foe. Instantly most intense musical chairs that has ever been in all of fiction. I'm pretty confident in that. Never done like this before. Nay and Ibuki immediately forget about the letting Team Red win thing, so that's just out. It's only them left. They demolish everyone else. They're so good at running around these chairs, right? It's down to just these two, one chair. The music stops and they start physically fighting over the chair. They're throwing punches. The teachers are too scared to get involved because Nay is, like karate master. Like she's like doing it and Ibuki's also doing it and they're like it's scary. No one wants to be there. They fight so hard and Nay is yelling and she's like I was so mean to Honeko. How can I ever face her? And Ibuki's like, "You know what? I think you don't want to punch me. You want to punch you." And he picks up the chair, and she sees her face and the reflection of the chair, and then punches through it and destroys the chair. And oh my god, you guys! So the chair is destroyed. There's no chair left, so no points are scored, and Team Red still wins by default. Okay. As soon as everything calms down, Nay is horrified because she just revealed her abilities in front of the whole school. Like she'd revealed who she is, and also in front of Honeko. And Honeko's running after her, and she's like, "Oh my god, she's gonna hate me. She's gonna be scared of me. Like how can she know?" Honeko runs up to her and says, "Oh my god, that's so amazing that you can do that. I didn't know you could do that. I'm so impressed by you and learning this new thing about you." Nay is instantly just like overcome with this insane guilt and like drops to her knees and starts bawling about how she's not good enough to be Haneko's friend. And then we get this scene. I like queerbait, actually. I think it's good when this happens. And I think we should have it happen more. Chapter 12, Arakuni Ibuki's Oath. Ibuki decides to fill Nae in on the traitor situation. So she and him and also Masachika and Sumihiko have this little meeting where we learn that there are two factions of the Jingu group. I keep saying clan, guys. Let me have that. There are two factions of the Jingu group who they have to worry about: the Ogami and the Nozu. The Ogami are like adrenaline junkie fiends, and the Nozu are just a whole ass cult, but they're both parts of the same group, and they're trying to get succession going, right? Ibuki is like, hey, why doesn't Masahito just fucking name the next heir so this will be done and Honeko will be safe? But Masachika says that one of these two clans, the Ogami and the Nozu, one of them actually killed the person who was going to be named the next heir. And they're holding off succession until Masahito figures out which one it was so he can decide who to punish and who to actually elevate, right? Meanwhile, Nei is like, hey, Ibuki, why did you trust me to be part of this conversation? And Ibuki says, I mean, you like Akabame, right? And this is her reaction. I do genuinely think she's like supposed to canonically be in love with Honeko. Like, it's unrequited, obviously. It's not a reaction you have to that question being asked platonically. I just don't believe that. And I really like she and Ibuki have this really great relationship because of this bond they have over just being in love with the same girl. It's very sad. Obviously, it's very sad, but it's also really cute the way they become friends through this shared affection for the same person, and they end up kind of overcoming that rivalry and just becoming besties. And I support this. Sometimes a straight man and a lesbian are actually the greatest best friends you can have out there. Anyway, these four are making their plans to stamp out the traitor, and just this is all just in time for the school trip arc. They're going to Kyoto, baby. They're going to Kyoto, baby. But oh no, their vacation coincides with the Konigashima High School, which is just like a school for delinquents. Like they all have really tall hair and like they're all walking around like this, and they have like baseball bats. It's very like This is a windbreaker high school. These are not real. This is not a real school in the real world. Whatever. Chapter 13. Kunigashima High School is nonconformist. So they're on the train to Kyoto. They have their car that their school is in, and then the fucking delinquent school car. And Honeko tells off the delinquents. So now Ibuki has to fight them to protect her, and one of them brings a chainsaw to this fight. This very small kid from Kunigashima just steps in, stops them from killing Ibuki with the chainsaw because he thinks that using tools in fights is not cool. All he wants to do is like have a fun fight. So he decides to actually join Ibuki's side because it looks like more fun. He's like, "Hey, we're besties, aren't we?" And Ibuki's like, "Yeah, we're besties." And then this kid's like girlfriend wakes up, and they continue to fight the other guys, and it's all really great. And then Ibuki leaves, and then we find out that those two are not from delinquent high school. No, no, no. They're actually child assassins sent by the Ogami faction. They have a special group called the Hunting Dogs, who these kids are a part of, and they are here to kill Honeko Akabane? What? Chapter 14. Masachika Jingu struggles. Oh no. Masachika comes in secret to Kyoto to kind of help Ibuki's group, and she really wants to help him because she wants to prove herself to him. She discovers that these two kids are from the Hunting Dogs, and she's like, "Oh my god, I need to tell him this." But then she gets drunk. By the time Ibuki shows up in the room that they're staying at in this inn, she is like a sobbing, drunken mess, and she pulls Ibuki into his futon, and kisses him. This scene feels bad in a way that Ibuki kissing Masachika didn't. I think just because of the motivations, right? Because Ibuki was doing that as a means to an end to physically get a bomb detonator out of her mouth, versus Masachika, who is doing this without his consent because she wants to do it, right? It's bad, and even though I have my own feelings about her obsession with Ibuki as a character, this act is bad. That's my that's my hot take. Assault is bad. Anyways, Honeko walks in and sees this happening, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And Ibuki's like, "Oh my god!" Chapter 15: Akabane Honeko's frustration. Honeko runs away from all of that, and then Nei catches her and's like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, you seem really upset." And Honeko just like out of nowhere confesses that she has feelings for Ibuki, and Nei is like, "Yeah." We all know that. It's so incredibly obvious. And she kind of supports her. She's like, "Hey, you should go ahead and tell him how you feel, right?" So Honeko runs back and it's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna confess to him right now because things are moving without me, and I don't want him to be stolen from me, right?" So she's running back, and then she pauses around the corner. This is so shoujo manga, right? She's around the corner, and Ibuki is talking to Sumihiko, and Sumihiko's asking about Ibuki's feelings about Honeko, and Ibuki says, "I like her, but I'm not going to ask her out until after graduation. As soon as we graduate, I'm going to ask her out." And Honeko hears this. She doesn't hear the reason why, which is, the reason is obviously like because they're trapped in this fucking hitman situation, right? And he doesn't want their relationship to include this lie, and he doesn't want this to be a distraction from their relationship, so he wants to wait until that is dealt with. But all Honeko hears is like, he is going to ask you out at the end of the year. So she's like, at the same time, like so happy to know that he likes her, but she's also like, why can't we just date now? Like, I want to respect him, so I guess I'll wait for him because I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know what to do about this. And she goes really awkward about it, so she kind of avoids him the next day. This is really cute, actually, and I love that we didn't have to have like an awful, misunderstanding arc where she's like, "Oh no, he's dating that adult woman." Like, we can kind of pretend that chapter 14 never happened, which I would love to do because I don't like thinking about it too hard. Anyway, they're back in their class trip the next day, and those two kids from earlier are back, and class 3-4 kind of breaks off. Sumihiko and Ibuki stay with Honeko to protect her, and everyone else basically goes to fight those two kids, and they get their asses kicked so serious. Chapter 16, class 3-4's true strength. So like I said, they are getting beaten up. Like, these two, and I don't want to talk too much about how they're getting beaten up by two children, but it is a little funny how badly the entire class gets destroyed. And just as they're like about to be like truly demolished by these people, like probably all killed, Sumihiko shows up, and he's fucking pissed, and he's wearing Ibuki's earrings again, and like he is the most serious and intense we've ever seen Sumihiko, and it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of actually awesome, guys. It's actually kind of awesome. Chapter 17, class 3-4's envy. So Sumihiko just systematically disposes of these two assassins with this barely contained rage. He's fucking fuming, and he's one of those characters who's very gathered about his anger and very controlled about his anger, which makes it scarier. And then it's done and it's dealt with, and he just casually over the intercom is like, "All right, we need the doctor to come and take care of this, and this, and then these people need to go be with Honeko." And he turns around and he's like, "Hey, why are you guys still on the ground? Get up, we have a job to do." And everyone is fucking crushed, like, "Oh god." Oh god, oh god, he's so fucking cool, right? They're like, we are so like, they're just so humiliated by having, I mean, 20 people getting beaten up by 2 people, and then one person just like, that is embarrassing, right? So they kind of gather their strength enough to keep the assassins from running away and apprehend them so that they can be questioned later. Chapter 18, Arakuni Ibuki's motto. The class torturer is a role that exists in this classroom, and she is torturing information of the 2 child assassins. Iori, the girl, and Nanafuri, the boy. They are both 14 years old, and they are hired by the hunting dogs, like I said. Ibuki is like genuinely horrified. First of all, about the torture of the children, but also about the fact that they are children being trained to kill. Even though he is kind of surrounded by children who are trained to kill, like I guess they're older children, so it doesn't whatever. But Anafuri is like, killing is actually awesome and cool, and everyone does it where I'm from, right? So then Ibuki obviously gives a speech like, everyone matters to someone, so killing people is bad, right? But then we find out that Ibuki's mother was murdered by a 14-year-old. A 14-year-old gang member killed Ibuki's mom. And he's like, that kid was the same age as you. It is actually, again, kind of cool and nuanced that this series directs anger not at the specific people conducting acts of violence, but at the systems that are creating the need for that violence. Ibuki isn't mad at Nanafuri, even though he could, like, project the killer of his mother onto that child. He's mad at the Ogami faction for creating child soldiers, for making this phenomena continue to happen. Um, and now again, it's the bare minimum, but I did not expect like anything remotely approaching commentary from a series this silly, right? While all this is going on, Honeko is somewhere else, and she goes outside and she overhears that the delinquents from Delinquent High School have a hostage from Class 3-4, and she's like, I must go by myself to deal with this. By the time the rest of the class realize she's missing, they're still recovering. They can't do anything about it, really. So they send Ibuki by himself to go get her. The hostage they have is Masachika. Ibuki and Honeko are like running from the gang members through this abandoned hospital where they are keeping Masachika on a school trip. They're running, they hide under a hospital bed, and that's where they find Masachika, and she's tied up. And one of the commenters on the definitely legal site that I read this series on just says, leave her there. No one likes Masachika, guys. I think I'm her one defender. And I don't like most of what she does, but she's a victim of misogyny, right? She didn't have to be written by that. I could fix her. We could write her better. Honestly, they should have left her there, maybe. Chapter 19, Kinagashima High School's counterattack. So flashback to 4 hours ago when Masachika woke up and she was really hungover, and she was like, oh my god, I had information I was supposed to tell Ibuki before I passed out and kissed him also. She runs out and immediately gets kidnapped by random high school delinquents. I'm like, are you not an adult? Maybe she's not an adult. I don't know. She's really a loser. So maybe she is younger than I thought she was. Anyways, Ibuki and Honeko save her, and once she's untied, she stages like the most cartoonish attack possible. She has like this toy gun that she's like holding at gunpoint, and they're like, oh my god, and then it shoots a little flag, and she's throwing like gotcha capsules, but they're supposed to look like grenades, so they're running away and they're scared. Masachika and Honeko get separated from Ibuki, so at that point Masachika is the one defending Hanako, and it's actually for like a split second it's cute because you remember that they're sisters, and like Hanako doesn't know that, and Masachika does not acknowledge it whatsoever at any point, but they are sisters, and you can imagine a story where they have this like sisterly bond, right? Where Masachika is protecting her as her older sister. It is almost cute in my brain when I make it that way, right? Then the chapter ends, they escape, and Honeko and Masachika agree to continue their rivalry for Ibuki's affection, even though all Ibuki wants is for Masachika to leave him alone. Chapter 20, Class 3-4's school trip. While Ibuki was occupied, Sumihiko decided to let the kids go, but don't worry, the class embedded tracking chips into their skin, which even Ibuki's like, don't do that, actually, that was bad that you did that. They enjoy the rest of their school trip pretty uneventfully, even though they let the kids go, and they are on their way back to the train station before they see him again. It's Iori, the girl, who comes up and she's like, hey, Ibuki, thank you for talking some sense into Nanafuri. We are not going to try and kill Honeko anymore. So that's good, great, that's great. And then Honeko gets a phone call. Hello, this is the funeral parlor. We've come to collect your corpse. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys, that doesn't sound great. Uh-oh. A horde of Nozu Society assassins. These are the funeral parlor. They show up in the train station and they're like carrying swords around, like they're just walking in like that. And Sumihiko's like, this has to be a setup by the traitor because the Ogami faction was set up to be here when we got here, and we are still decimated. We cannot fight back against this, and it is while we are at our weakest and cornered that these people are, the other faction is coming now. So this has to be the traitor's work, right? So he just tells them over the intercom, like, the goal of the trip right now is to get back alive. That's all we can do. We can't fight these people. Chapter 21, the traitor's baptism. Everyone is getting their asses kicked again, like so bad. But then the child assassins show back up and they defend them, and everyone manages to get onto the trains except for Ibuki, Nei, and Sumihiko. We don't know what's going on with Sumihiko right now. He's fighting some guy. Nei and Ibuki are together, and they're fighting this sword woman from the funeral parlor. Nei tries to tell Ibuki, like, you just go. I'll deal with it. I'll stay here, and whatever happens, happens. I have to protect you because that means protecting Honoko, because that's what Honoko would want. I want to save you for her sake. And Ibuki is like, that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. And he picks her up and just like carries her away, and they run and they jump and they end up landing on top of the train. Once again, I genuinely really love their friendship, and I'm so glad that Ibuki could have one woman who is not in love with him. Thank God. Just when they think they're safe, though, that sword lady shows up again on the top of the train, and Nana Furi shows up to defend them, and he gets this slash across the back, and you're like, oh fuck, oh no! Chapter 22, Class 3-4's Departure. Nana Furi is extremely stabbed, and Iori shows up to save him. Then Sumihiko and this guy he's been fighting show up, and Sumihiko is like bleeding. And that is really scary because we've seen Sumihiko fight before and we've never seen him even exert effort. This time he's actually struggling against this guy whose name is Shien, and he's called that by the sword lady who asked him to call her mom. We don't know what's going on there yet, but there will be something going on there. I'm quite certain of it. Ibuki only manages to evade them with one of Masachika's stupid fake grenades. It works. The trick works, and they ride away. They train away. Shout out to that Phil girl for saving his life that one time. Nanafuri is carried away on a stretcher, and he tells everyone that he is going to retire as an assassin. And we are all so happy. Get that kid in middle school. As they're getting back, Sumihiko tells Ibuki, like, I'm sorry for what I said about Honoko way back when, right? From now on, I'm going to protect her for your sake. In my brain, there is a love square. Okay, it's actually it's more like a love like basin. There's three sides, and the bottom like the core, the base, right? Honoko and Ibuki, they're obviously in love with each other. They love each other. It's mutual. They're so great together. We know that's going. We know they're going to confess at the end of the year. Like they're all aware of that. But then, like Nei is definitely in love with Honoko, right? Like almost certainly in love with Honoko. And last chapter, she declared that she was going to defend Ibuki for Honoko's sake. Even though it means that she's never going to be with Honoko, right? She's never going to have that relationship. She wants to defend that relationship because it makes Honoko happy. And then in this chapter, we get the same thing with Sumihiko. He's going to protect Honoko for Ibuki's sake. Guys, I don't know if I just didn't look hard enough because it was a very cursory search, but I want you to know that I have not been able to find a single piece of fan fiction about this series, and it's like the love basin is right there, right? Like this beautiful unrequited like situation. Like there's so much depth and complexity to be explored in there, and I can't believe the angst of the love basin is just being left there to rot. And like I can't write the fanfiction because I'm making these videos right now. But if one of you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could just let me know. If you explore the love basin with me, maybe tag it love basin. I don't know. But like I'm worried about this. It makes me worried when something like this is just untapped. Anyways, chapter 23. So they get back. They're all safe and sound and recovering. And Sumihiko's like, we need to call our old combat teacher to train us up because we're not doing well, right? We got beaten up by 14-year-olds. So they all go to Ibuki's house, and Ibuki's like, okay, we're doing it here. We're gonna meet them. And they're like, yeah. And surprise, it's his dad. Takeo Ibuki was the original combat teacher who trained this class of child soldiers. But Ibuki's dad is like, I'm not doing that again. I'm sorry, like you don't want this for the right reasons. I'm not gonna do it. You're weak, losers. And then Kuran, who's the classic gambler, she like runs up and she's like, I just want to survive graduation. Like I just want us to stay alive and like be with my friends and have fun. And we're not gonna do that unless you help us, right? And he's like, sorry, I actually still don't care. And then that night, Ibuki has this heart to heart with his dad. His dad says that he quit the Jingu gang after Ibuki's mother was murdered because Ibuki's mother was killed by this 14-year-old kid who was hired by one of the Jingu groups, and he couldn't get out of this. Like he had to do it because there was this debt being held against his family. His own family was at stake, right? He had no choice. Ibuki's father could not live with the fact that he was part of a system that was doing the same thing to other children, right? He was training kids to kill, and that was what took his wife away, and he didn't want to do that to anyone else, and he couldn't live with with that weight on his conscience of putting that power out in the world, in hands that were not equipped to wield it, and hands that were forced to wield it in very certain ways, right? So Ibuki says, like, I will make sure that no one in my class ever takes a life. And, like, first of all, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm pretty sure they've already killed several people, but whatever. I also don't think that's the main issue here. I think the real issue is taking a childhood and a life away from these people. But again, whatever. His dad agrees. I guess that ship has sailed anyways, so he's going to train them. Then Masachika gets another text from the class traitor, and we cut to this person's like sitting on a skyscraper texting Masachika. Zoom out. It's Karan Shuto, the class gambler. My favorite thing about this Nothing Burger reveal. Like, first of all, the author made sure to include her earlier in the chapter so that we couldn't like have forgotten who she was, because it's been a long time since she mattered, right? But also, even then, when this reveal is made, he puts a text box with her name and it says Karan Shuto traitor, because like he knew that we weren't going to remember who she was. Chapter 24, The Traitor's Secret Meeting. Karan is talking to members of these other Jingu groups, and she's like, hey, get better at killing, because I'm giving you all this info, and you're not killing her, that I really want you to kill her so bad. And they're like, hey, why do you want to kill her so bad? And she's like, maybe figure it out. We learn that Karan and Honeko are twins. I've updated the family tree. Masahito thought his wife was pregnant with one child. She was actually pregnant with two children. You know how twins do. And somehow circumstances occurred in a way such that Honeko got protection and being put in a foster care facility and all this blah blah blah, while Shuto ended up like on the streets fending for herself. So the reason why she's protecting Honeko is because, you know, it's not fair. Chapter 25, Honeko Akamane's agreement. So Karan has a love consultation with Honeko when they're back at school, which is apparently something she's always done. Like, we're just learning this now, but she gives these consultations to people. She gives them advice in their love lives. The class actually turns their monitoring off for these scenes because they want to give people their privacy. So Karan uses this opportunity since they're not being monitored. She's like, okay, I'm gonna tell Honeko the truth about what's going on around her. I'm gonna tell her about these assassins and these bodyguards and all this shit so that she feels bad and guilty and then lets me kill her. But then Karan realizes that Ibuki is listening from the hallway, so she pivots immediately. She's like, I have a really big secret to tell you. Everyone has such bad grades and we're all gonna fail finals and we're so freaking out. We're so scared. Oh my god, we need help studying. So Honeko organizes the study group, like surprise study group for everyone, in the last week before the midterms that they have coming up at Ibuki's house. And she also gets Ibuki to be a tutor, and we find out that he actually has really good grades. And everyone's like, I thought you were stupid. And he's like, fuck you guys. It's really cute. But then, because they're doing this at Ibuki's for some reason, Honeko finds out that Masachika is living with him. And there is actually, like, I can't think of a single good way to explain this without explaining the bodyguards thing. But apparently this was Karan's plan all along. She wanted to break Honeko's heart by revealing to her that Masachika is living with Ibuki so that she'd be really vulnerable, and then Karan could emotionally manipulate her and get her to willingly endanger herself. Instead of that happening, Ibuki invites Honeko to live with him so that she can see that Masachika and him do not have a relationship, so he can prove it, right? So she moves in with him for the next week. And I'm like, what do her parents think is going on in her personal life? Because a lot of things have been occurring around her daughter, and I'm worried about her. Chapter 26, Masachika Jingu's journey forward. So Karan is like fuming about the fact that this love triangle is going on around her. Like, everyone at the study group is having to deal with this going on, and it's all like cute and like shoujo-y or whatever. And she's like, I'm trying to kill you. Like, you can't be having this going on. And she decides, like, the thing that is keeping me from Honeko at this point is Ibuki. He's the link that is ruining my shit so bad. So she decides she's going to tamper with the tests so that Ibuki alone fails and he gets sent to supplementary classes and he is separated from Honeko. Meanwhile, Masachika has a conversation with Ibuki's dad about the doubts that she has about the relationship. And instead of Ibuki's dad telling her, like, yeah, actually, my son is really uncomfortable with you being here, and he invited you here because he feels like you have no other place to go, but he doesn't, like you in that way. And it's actually really weird that you're pursuing this when he's made it really clear that he's not interested. And he and Honeko, like, clearly have something going on. Like, I don't know my son's love life like that, but like, clearly that's not, like, happening for you, right? And I think it's really inappropriate that you've inserted yourself into our lives like this. Instead of saying any of that, he's like, you know, I proposed hundreds of times before Ibuki's mom said yes to me. Just keep trying. So luckily, she interprets this speech to mean that she should move out and become self-actualized enough to actually pursue a relationship. And, like, again, I kind of like this. Like I'm being very charitable because it's not perfect the way that it's presented. It's not perfect, but it is a very good conclusion for Masajika to come to, which is that she needs to examine herself instead of focusing on this relationship with Ibiki. And like maybe when she's done with it, she realizes that happiness cannot be found in a 17-year-old boy's house, right? Chapter 27, Arakuni Ibiki's end of term exam. So Karan infiltrates the exam room before their test and switches Ibiki's question sheet with one that she made so that the answers won't line up. And she also memorizes the real answers herself. They take the tests, and then a week later, they all get graded, and they come around, they post them, and only one person in class 3-4 failed. It's Karan. Karan failed. Karan is the one who failed. It turns out that Ibiki switched all the question sheets a week before Karan did, and then switched them back just before they were graded. So Karan is the only one who had memorized the answers off of the wrong test sheets, so she gets them wrong. That reveals her as the one person who failed, ergo, the traitor. And Ibiki tells her all this, and he also says, like, I only caught this cheating because I tried to cheat off of Honoko once, and she caught it in a very similar way. So really, this is Honoko's win. And Karan is so upset at the mention of Honoko that she just, like, has a breakdown and tries to kill him with a knife. Ibiki stops her, obviously, apprehends her, locks her up, whatever. Chapter 28, Karan Shudo's downfall. Ibiki brings Karan to a karaoke place with the traitor infiltration squad, by which I mean Sumihiko and Nei. Masajika is not here right now. She's off doing her own thing for a little while. But those two are there, and Nei is like so mad. Like Nei is punching her and is like, why are you guys more angry about this? Sumihiko is just like kind of calculating what to do next, and Ibiki is like, hey, she's still a part of this group. I don't want to turn her in yet because she's probably they're gonna like deal with her. I don't want her to be dealt with. Kurana's being very, very belligerent still, and she's like, they're gonna come get me anytime. And lo and behold, the Ogami faction show up, and they do come to get her by shooting her with a gun. They're like, she's not useful anymore. You've been discovered, so we're just gonna get rid of you. And she's like floored. She had no idea they were gonna just dispose of her like this. But Ibiki saves her from getting shot, kind of saves her from dying. After they escape, Ibiki gets a call from the Ogami group leader, and he says, "I'm sitting here with the Nozu group leader. We're teaming up, and on July 21st, we are going to combine forces and come kill Honoko Akawane together." I do not know why he told him that. It seems counterproductive. Chapter 29, Class 3-4's Undercover Investigation. So, Karan is still recovering from her injuries, and they haven't revealed her existence as a traitor yet. They want her to, like, recover fully and kind of get to apologize herself. So she's just kind of out of class for a while she's dealing with all that. Sumihiko, in the meantime, explains to everyone that they have this deadline coming up of this big fight, and they're going to be split into two groups to infiltrate both organizations and kind of get whatever information they can about what's going to happen on that day. So the first group is Sumihiko, and he's going to investigate the Nozu funeral parlor. He is appointing Joe Kagura to investigate the Ogami hunting dogs. Joe Kagura is the driver. That's his thing. He drives so good. But this is also a big deal, and everyone's kind of like, whoa, that's crazy that he did that, because Kagura was the original leader of the class, and he gave it up. Kagura's group includes Ibiki, Nei, and Higure, who is this like sword girl who does not speak. She's mute. Plus Kishin, the lockpicking guy, and Itofumi, the hacker. Everyone gets in like these really nice clothes, and they go to an Ogami nightclub through a secret entrance in a laundromat. It makes me think of that scene in The Cat in the Hat when they go to that weird like phone booth nightclub. It's very similar vibes. But they go in there, it's crazy, it's popping, and they've got dancing, but they've also got like these paid fights that are being put on for entertainment and bets. And the next one is between what looks like a 4-year-old child and this giant man called the Bear Killer. Which I'm like, in terms of like entertainment, that doesn't seem fun. Like I know you guys are evil and you're like, well, you have debt to us, so give us your kid and he'll fight in our ring. But like he's just gonna die like instantly, right? So that's not fun to watch. And also, like no one's gonna bet on that one because it's really clear who's gonna win. So I really don't get the financially I'm at a loss. But obviously, Ibiki steps in and intervenes before this fight goes on. Even though Kagura's like, you guys, we can't draw attention to ourselves. This is an infiltration mission. We're trying to get information. We need to sneak around. We can't just like do that. So Ibiki jumps in, instantly ruins everything. Every combatant starts fighting. So Nei is punching people. Higure is swording people. Kagura is paralyzed. He's like, fuck, everything is not going to plan at all. Oh my god. Chapter 30, the Hunting Dog Organization's representative. They're fighting the leader of the Hunting Dog Organization, who's like this poison man, and he's like, I have the chip that you need. I actually don't care at all. Anyways, we get some backstory on Kagura. We find out he gave up leadership as a kid because he couldn't handle the idea of his orders getting someone hurt. He had messed up a little bit and someone got hurt and he just couldn't deal with that pressure at all. So he just gave it up. Ibiki gives him like this inspirational speech while he's trying to hack, and he does so good that Kagura gets over all his fears and does teamwork. Chapter 31, Joe Kagura's Step Forward. Sumihiko's group did their mission flawlessly off screen. Meanwhile, Kagura's group, everything's going wrong. Ibiki thinks he got him for a second, but then the guy manages to get back up. He gets the chip that they were trying to get without the info that they need on it, and he runs away. Oh no, oh god, he's getting away. But, wait a second. What is Kagura known for? He's the driver. That's right. He drives. Okay. So he and Ibiki start this high-speed chase against the boss. And Kagura's like, oh, God, I'm doubting myself. I don't know if I can do it. But then he overcomes his fear. He drives onto the wall of the tunnel. They're in a tunnel. He drives onto the wall, jumps over the other car. Ibiki and him jump out of the car windows, pull that guy out of his car. The cars land on each other and explode. And Ibiki fights that guy who they're chasing and gets the chip. And they get it. They win. That's fucking awesome, guys. That's so good. Chapter 32. The Salvation Funeral Garden's parent and child. They did so good. They got the chip, but Kagura exploded the car. So they have to like charter the school's bus. They have to get it to them, and then they drive the bus back. And while they're on the bus, Ibiki finds this notebook that Higure has, and he's like, what's this? And then Higure's very cagey about it. She doesn't talk. Remember, she doesn't talk. So she just like threatens him with a sword until he gives it back. But then the bus is stopped. The freaky funeral parlor lady is back, and she's with this fucking guy. And the guy shoots and blows up the laptop while that they were trying to get the info on. Somehow the chip survives, but they're trying to get it still. So the woman is like, hey, Higure, listen to your mother and do what I say. And Higure instantly frozen. And Ibika's like, what's going on? Oh my god, what's Higure doing? Higure cannot stop herself from following her mother's directions. This woman, her mother, her directions. So she grabs the memory chip and she goes up to her. And she's like holding it out, and she manages. All she can do is just like hold it out and not open her hand. She's like, I can't do it. Her mom's like, come on, give it to me, come on. And eventually she just lifts her sword and tries to cut Higure's hand off. And that's the point when Ibiki intervenes and is like, okay, don't do that. Actually, they destroy the memory chip. They rip into Higure for being weak and not coming back and being the useful kid that she could have been. Just as things are getting very quite bad, Sumihiko shows up, and so does the rest of the class. They are here to clean up. And Higure's parents like see these 22 or I guess 21 children showing up, and they're just like, yeah, let's go, because they already destroyed the memory card, and the showdown isn't for 2 weeks. Like they have a date on the calendar, and they're not just gonna ruin that already. And Higure is not worth staying for. Everyone's like, oh my god, the chip was destroyed, so I guess that was a failure. But then Itofumi, the hacker, is like, oh, I saw some of the information on my laptop, and he can memorize any piece of information he sees. So he's like writing it on the sidewalk in like chalk. They're like, oh, sick, I guess. So they have the information they needed. So they got it. Woohoo! Mission success. Chapter 33. Yami Hime Higure's deep-rooted delusion. So after that, like everyone's pretty happy they're successful. They did all their shit, right? But Higure has gone like catatonic. She's not going to school anymore. And Ibuki's trying to figure out what's going on with her, and he's kind of asking everyone, and eventually he asks Karan. He goes to see her while she's still recovering at home, and Karan says, Higure actually used to talk a lot. And then one day, she realized that her voice sounded like her mother's, and she just stopped talking, and she hasn't talked since then. That shows a lot about her relationship with her parents, and we've already got some inklings of what that could be like. And Ibuki's like, oh, my mission now is to defeat Higure's trauma. Higure isn't going to school, so he goes to her house after class, and he goes there, and Honoko's also there, because she's bringing Higure the homework that she's been missing because she's staying home. Higure doesn't answer the door, and so Ibuki takes out her notebook. He got it back. He took it. He stole it, and he starts reading it out loud, and it's like full of these really cute and sweet entries of just her saying how much she cares and how much she hopes she's being useful for her classmates. And it's really it's everything she wants to say out loud to her classmates that she can't get herself to. And Higure is mortified when she starts hearing this being read. So she opens the door, she takes it, she closes it, slams it shut. Honoko's like, that was weird. Why'd you do that? But then they walk home, they talk about it a little bit more. And Honoko is like, I really like Higure's voice. I wish she talked more. She only knows what she sounds like because she heard Higure talking in her sleep once, but she's like, it's really deep, it's really nice. It's beautiful. I wish she was willing to talk to us. So she and Ibuki hatch a scheme to once again, cure Higure's trauma, to make it so she can talk comfortably. So for the next few days, they keep going to her apartment after school, and they're just doing these schemes to try and get her attention, to try and just get her to talk to them, just to look at them, interact with them even a little bit. And they eventually are like, we're just being annoying, right? We're just annoying her. And she puts a sign on the door that's they're banned from the premises. But after a few like the bad tries, they come back with helium. They have like helium pumps for balloons, and they inhale a little bit of it, and their voices go higher. And they're like, "Hey, Higure, we brought this for you to change the sound of your voice." Eventually, she inhales a little of the helium, and she says like hi, and they all immediately start laughing because of how high her voice is. But she's like realizing like yeah, I don't sound like my mom right now, so I can talk. I can talk. So they come in and they play a board game together, and they just talk, and it's really cute. And like the whole time, she's like chugging helium to raise the pitch of her voice. By the time they're done, they've run out of helium. She hasn't even noticed. Ibiki points this out, and she realizes like, oh, I sound like myself. I don't sound like my mom. And Honeko says her voice is cool, and they all like hug and they cry. And that's the end of chapter 33. And that is the end of today's summary. Okay, there's about a third of the way through. Again, we've got also probably like maybe a third of the family tree. So very excited to see where that turns up. If you like this video, I don't make other videos like it. I don't make any other videos like anything at all. The things I make are different every time, and they aren't especially good. Like I don't, so like don't subscribe or anything. Like don't, for the 7 people who watch this, don't subscribe. But yeah, I hope you guys like this. I hope it was easy to follow. I hope it wasn't like complete nonsense. There will be more no matter whether you like it or not. Go make bad art. I think that's what I say. Make bad art.